actually created the celebrity system? Hollywood didn't just make movies. It changed the way people see fame forever. The more I looked into this topic, the more I realized celebrity culture was built very intentionally. Studios knew exactly how to make audiences attached to certain people, and once that formula started working, everything changed. A lot of what people see as natural fame was carefully promoted, controlled, and sold to the public. If you like topics that make you rethink things people normally never question, subscribe and stick around because we're going a lot deeper on this channel. So let's talk about it. Who actually created the celebrity system? It's strange to think about now, but there was a time when famous people barely existed in the way we understand fame today. In the early 1900s, movie studios avoided putting actors' names in films because they feared performers would gain too much influence and start demanding more money. Studios wanted audiences attached to the movies themselves, not the people inside them. But audiences naturally became curious anyway. One of the earliest examples was Florence Lawrence. Florence Lawrence was born in Canada in 1886 to parents who both worked in theatre and vaudeville entertainment. She grew up performing from a very young age and eventually entered silent films during the early days of Hollywood. What made Florence different was that audiences started recognizing her face everywhere. People constantly asked theaters who she was because studios refused to publicly credit actors at the time. Viewers became so curious about her identity that they nicknamed her the Biograph Girl. And honestly, that curiosity changed Hollywood permanently. Because studios suddenly realized something important. People were not only interested in movies. They were becoming emotionally attached to the people inside them. One man who understood this earlier than most was Carl Laemmle. Carl Laemmle was born in Germany in 1867 and immigrated to the United States in 1884 as a teenager. After arriving in America, he spent nearly 20 years working regular jobs in Chicago before entering the film industry. He worked in bookkeeping and retail positions while slowly learning business and building connections. At the time, the movie industry barely existed. Film was still new. Most people had no idea how massive entertainment would eventually become. But Carl Laemmle saw opportunity in it early. He later founded Universal Pictures and became one of the people responsible for transforming Hollywood into a system built around fame. In 1910, he reportedly spread a rumor claiming Florence Lawrence had died in a streetcar accident. Newspapers picked up the story, audiences became emotionally invested, and then Laemmle publicly revealed she was alive and joining his company. Today that sounds manipulative. But at the time, it worked perfectly. People suddenly cared about Florence Lawrence as a person, not just an actress in films. And honestly, this feels like one of the earliest moments where Hollywood realized attention itself could be created, controlled, and sold. Once studios figured that out, everything changed. By the 1920s and 1930s, Hollywood developed what became known as the star system. Studios no longer just made movies. They built celebrities. Actors were given new names because studios thought some real names sounded too foreign, too ordinary, or not glamorous enough. Public images were carefully designed. Relationships were staged for publicity. Interviews were controlled. Some stars had scandals hidden from the public while other stories were intentionally leaked to newspapers to create more attention. The celebrity slowly became less like a person and more like a carefully managed brand. And this is where media became extremely important. Because studios alone could not keep audiences emotionally invested forever. They needed newspapers, magazines, and gossip writers to keep celebrities constantly in people's minds. That's where Hedda Hopper enters the story. Hedda Hopper was born in Pennsylvania in 1885. Her real name was Elda Furry, and she came from a much more ordinary background than the glamorous image she later became known for. Her father worked as a butcher, and she originally wanted to become an actress herself. She spent years acting in smaller Hollywood film roles but never became one of the major stars. And honestly, that probably shaped the direction her life eventually took, because while working around Hollywood, she realized something important. The people controlling celebrity stories sometimes had more influence than the celebrities themselves. By the 1930s, Hedda Hopper moved into gossip journalism and quickly became one of the most feared women in Hollywood. Her columns reached millions of readers across America. Actors feared being mentioned negatively by her. Stud. iOS worked with her behind the scenes. And audiences became obsessed with celebrity scandals, rumors, affairs, feuds, and private lives. This changed celebrity culture permanently because fame stopped being only about talent. Now visibility mattered too. The more people talked about someone, the more valuable they became. And over time, celebrity itself became entertainment, not just movies. Not just acting. The person became the product. What's interesting is that this system eventually spread far beyond Hollywood actors. The music industry adopted the exact same formula. Record labels realized singers could be marketed the same way movie stars were marketed. By the 1950s and 1960s, artists like Elvis Presley became larger-than-life public figures through television appearances, magazines, radio stations, merchandise, interviews, and carefully managed publicity. Music companies learned fans did not only want songs. They wanted personalities. They wanted people they could obsess over. And over time, image became just as important as talent itself. By the 1980s and 1990s, channels like MTV changed celebrity culture again because musicians were now constantly seen, not just heard. Music videos, interviews, fashion, and public image became major parts of fame. The same thing eventually happened in rap and hip-hop. Early hip-hop originally grew from local neighborhoods, DJs, storytelling, parties, and community culture. But once record labels realized rap generated massive amounts of money, the industry started creating rap celebrities using many of the same strategies Hollywood used decades earlier. Music videos. Luxury lifestyles. Public feuds. Magazine covers. Controversy. Constant media attention. And honestly, some artists became famous as much for visibility as music itself. Because attention had become one of the most valuable things in the world. And now with social media, the celebrity system evolved again. People no longer need movie studios or major record labels to become famous. Sometimes millions of followers alone can turn someone into a celebrity overnight. And honestly, looking at all of this now, it explains a lot. Why fame feels manufactured sometimes. Why celebrities can feel more like brands than actual people. Why attention became one of the most powerful forms of currency online. The faces changed over the years, but the formula stayed surprisingly similar. Find someone people emotionally attach themselves to. Keep attention focused on them, turn that attention into profit. And now the system has grown so large that most people barely even question it anymore. But let me know what you think. Do you think celebrity culture happened naturally, or do you think the entire system was designed from the beginning?